Welcome to year 2 of A Mick, a Mook, and a Mike. Hosted by 4-time Emmy-nominated producer Frank Bates and retired New York City firefighter, 9/11 first responder, and Vietnam vet, Billy O'Connor.
Today's guest has appeared in more than 100 TV series and movies. Jack McGee.
My brother Frank. How you doing today, pal?
Great. We got Jack McGee on today. Semi-famous actor, but a good guy.
An old Bronx guy, man.
A lot of years.
Old fireman from the Bronx.
But before we talk to Jack, I want to ask Derek a question. So, Derek.
Yeah.
Your son recently was in Barcelona, Spain.
Yeah.
He's 25 years old, 26 years old.
25, yep.
25 years old. When I was 25 years old, I was not going to Barcelona, Spain. What were you doing when you were 25 years old, Billy? Putting out fires?
No, I think I was 25. I was hanging around New Orleans. I was banging around bar to bar to bar, attending bar down there.
And what were you doing when you were 25, Derek?
I was making babies.
You were making Essen.
Exactly.
So how does Essen afford a lifestyle that allows him to visit all the places that we hoped for when we were making babies for our children?
You know, Frank, this is a question that is it cycles through our family, like extended family. It's a constant conversation with all his cousins, and I will say I'll sum it up to two reasons. First of all, Essen is he's an extremely brilliant person. Now, he won't tell you that, and he doesn't even he probably doesn't even feel that to be true, but he is, and he's put himself in a position. He's a computer engineer. He works for a major consulting company, and obviously he gets to work remotely. And with that, being that he has a pretty significant salary, much bigger salary than probably any of us had at that time.
For sure. I was making $600 a month at the May company. $600 a month, not a week, a month.
Yeah. So that those two reasons, him being brilliant and in landing a major job at such a young age, has afforded him the ability to be mobile as well as financially able to do those types of
Plus,
things.
he's single and he doesn't have any kids yet.
He's not. Well, he's got a girlfriend, but he's not married.
Yeah, he's single.
Yes.
I can remember being that age and attending bar, and like you said, having whether or not you had money or not, I'd be working a day shift, and some guy come in about 10 o'clock in the morning, look up at me, and they're real serious drunks, you know, and the bars in New Orleans, 10 o'clock in the morning, guy looks up and says, "So what do you think about the Middle East?" You know, I said, "Well, considering I'm working for minimum wage and tips, and you've already had 3 gin and tonics, and it's 10 o'clock in the morning. I don't think we're the two guys to solve this problem. You know, maybe we should just let this go by." You know, but that's amazing. I mean, he's in Barcelona.
Well, he wasn't just in Barcelona. He was in.
Pile it on now.
Yeah.
Yeah, go.
Well, so first of all, he's been to Barcelona multiple times. So it's not the first time. He also met a friend there. So they hung out, sort of hung out with the locals. He not only went to Barcelona, he went to London, he went to Italy, he went to Greece, and somewhere else Malta. Went to which
Malta.
Yeah. So
Essen is an unusual name. How did you come up with that?
I came up. My wife's name is Yesenia, so
I
it came
see.
from her name.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
A fine woman.
yes,
His
thank you.
wife, as is yours, and as is
yours, Frank. We're all fine. They're all fine women. And if you're looking in, remember we mentioned you on the podcast, and you're all fine women.
Yes,
for sure. We all married above our weight class.
You know, I don't want to stay too long on it. I really want to get to Jack McGee because Jack's an old friend, and Jack's always got a lot to say. So
let's go to Jack.
What'd you say, Frank?
Let's go to Jack McGee.
All right, perfect.
Is that a shade to your left?
It'd be the tape delay.
No, to your left. Is that a shade? Window shade?
My left?
Yeah, to your left. Oh, yeah.
I just shifted the laptop. I didn't want to move the window.
Okay. That's good.
All right, this is going to be a good one.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one because look who I'm dealing with.
All right, let's save
I'm
all.
in this kind of we're in big trouble.
Let's
Let me close the door to my office so my dogs
Okay.
don't make us nuts.
Jack McGee himself.
Jack McGee. How are you?
I'm really good. I'm really good.
I'm Frank Pace. That's Derek Harris.
Good to see you again, Jackie boy. How are you?
And I don't know who that mook is.
I'm not the mook. You're the mook. I'm supposed to be the Mick.
Yeah, well,
In either case. It's good
we
to
got
see you, Jack, an
we
old
got-
Bronx boy.
we got two mix.
We do. That's pretty quick. Two mix it out. I can see when I'm dealing with high quality comedy.
High quality comedy
High-quality
indeed.
comedy. Yeah, you've dealt with some high quality comedy in your day, though. I got to tell you.
Like, until it wasn't funny anymore.
Yeah, well, until it got politically correct.
Mm-hmm.
I guess things have changed quite a bit. 214 acting credits, Jack. That's not bad from a kid from the Bronx, South Bronx.
You know, Billy, you sleep around, that's going to happen.
You know, at the beginning of your career, let me ask you, Jack, how many dead bodies did you play?
I think I played. I don't think I played any.
Really?
I was up for one, but Kevin Costner beat me out.
Yeah, yeah. Too bad. Too bad.
It
Well,
worked all right for him.
when you spent how many years in 89 and 50, Jack? What'd you do? How many years on the fire department?
I did 10 total, but a couple of one leave of absence in between, so really about 9 and change. But half of that was spent at 38 and 51 up on East Chester and Boston Post Road, and then I transferred over to the Throgs Net, 89 and 50.
Yeah, you finished up there, and
Wait, how do you guys know each other?
I know Jack. I actually the first time I met, I know of Jack more than we're not real close friends, but I know Jack through a lot of people. We have a lot of mutual friends. You know,
That's the nicest thing you could say about Jack. You don't know him.
And who knows what's going to happen after today?
Well, everybody comes here and says, this is where my career ended up, so welcome.
It's like Willie Mays' glove, the place where triples go to die.
Yeah.
Right.
This is the spot. But yeah, I mean, a lot of mutual friends, Vinnie Ryan and Noodles and
Right.
Tommy LaMarcha, of course. You know, I met you with Vinnie Ryan one time at a cop fireman hockey game.
Okay.
And, I forget what. I think you might have just made backdraft, and I was breaking your balls. And
Right. My nephew was my nephew Larry McGee was the captain of the fire department hockey team for 20 years.
Yeah, I know I was breaking your balls. I said, Jack,
Yeah.
now you're out in Hollywood. I heard you banging Kim Basinger. You said to me, well, Billy, it's not that I want it. She demands it. She demands it. Just something.
You know, you can't. She's only human.
They can only say no so long.
Jack, I think
That's-
I met you at Timmy Nolan's one day when I was there with Chris Thompson. Did you know Chris?
You're talking about Timmy Nolan's out here on Riverside Drive?
Yeah.
In studio up in
Studios.
Burbank.
Yeah. Did you know Chris Thompson, the writer? Because I think he was there when I was there with you. I think we met there one time.
I'm not sure. Yeah, it's been a while, then, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. It's probably 10, 15 years.
Yeah, easily.
But if you knew
Yeah.
Chris, if you had known Chris really well, you would have known him to be the most bon vivant guy. Well, the biggest drunk I ever saw, drunk and he was.
And I've known a few of those.
Yeah,
You didn't see me in my heyday there, Frankie boy. I wasn't bad myself.
yeah.
I spilled more than most people drank.
So Jack,
Yeah, you gotta just define what you consider bad.
yeah. Well, Jack, how'd you get started in acting?
You know, when I was a kid, the only thing I constantly keep going back to is when I was a kid. Did I lose you?
No,
No, you're right here.
Oh, okay. I'm not. I don't have any. I don't have anything up on you guys. When I was a kid, I was always in little rock and roll bands. I had a little band when I was a kid, and I always liked being on stage. And I fancied myself a singer, a rock and roll singer, which I did for a little while. In fact, later on, I used to always fantasize about waking up with Felix Cavalier's voice in my throat. Felix is the lead singer for the Young Rascals. And as it would happen many years later, after I lied to myself, telling everybody that I used to sing background harmony for the Rascals because you're a liar, and as it turned out, I became very, very friendly with Felix, and I wound up getting to do a couple of gigs with him. I did the Hollywood Bowl with him, and a couple of other times I went out. So I did a little bit of that, and then I wasn't, when you're an Irish kid from the Bronx, you take the civil service exam, because that's what you did. It was a steady job, and I worked for a while. I went to school out for only 6 months out in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I went from the Bronx, New York to Santa Fe, New Mexico in 1968, and 67 rather.
Why'd you go to New Mexico? Did you have a football scholarship or something?
No, that was the only school that accepted me.
You should have applied to Jacksonville.
I was the president of the student body at Cardinal Hayes High School, and I failed French in my senior year. So I had to go to summer school as the president of the school. So academics were not the thing that I was paying much attention to at the time.
Yeah, but let's go back. You were president of your senior class. That means you had exhibited some leadership traits.
Oh yeah, I was full of shit.
Yeah. Well, that's what it takes.
It's an Irish kid. It
was pretty much. It was on personality. Guys, I want to ask you now. I don't want to touch anything with this here because it's telling me that I can't see you guys. Not that makes much difference.
Well, I think we should probably try to reconnect because I'd like for you to see us. So I think what's happened is I noticed that your internet may be cycled off when you were talking.
Should I just go back to the email again?
Well, I'm going to hang up the call and then we'll just reconnect. So yes, go back to the email and just reconnect yourself. Okay.
Great. I will do that, and I'll be back with you in a second.
Okay.
All right, Jack. All right. So we go live. All right. So it's obvious an Irish kid from the Bronx to hook up with Felix Papalotti. How the hell did that?
Cavalieri. What the hell? What's wrong with you?
No. Felix Papalotti was the lead singer from Mountain.
Oh, okay.
And they actually lived right.
I did a lot of drugs in those years, Frank. A lot of drugs in those
Nobody's
years.
Heard of Felix Papalotti.
He got shot dead.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
His wife shot him dead.
Maybe that's why I connect with him.
Felix Cavalieri.
Cavalieri, okay. So I never even knew you were sang, Jack. I never knew you were. That was your thing.
I did it. It's the passion. I may not be very good at it. I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun, and if you go on YouTube, there's a couple of things here and there on YouTube from different pieces when I've done shows before. In between takes, in between different setups, they would play some different tunes, and I'd sing. I'm an old from back in the '60s. My wife keeps on telling me there was music after 1968, and I tell her, no, that's not true, because most of the shit you hear today, I can't understand it. And then I realized that I do smell like Bengay, and I'm so old, and I'm never going to change.
I remember saying one time on Facebook, I said, I don't know what it is. Lately, I'm on a Bob Dylan kick. Last month, all I've been listening to is Dylan. And the chick put underneath it, I've been on a Bob Dylan kick for 50 years.
Yeah.
And I get it. 60s music. It's like the lyrics. So when's the first time you ever got in front of a camera to be on the start acting? How did that chops develop?
Well, it's a weird thing. Billy, I don't know where you grew up. You grew up in the Bronx, right?
Bedford Park, around.
I came originally from down in Yankee Stadium, 153rd Street and Cortlandt Avenue, and there was a PAL that they had right on 153rd between Cortlandt and Morris Avenue, and it was where the cops used to get kids to come after school for different activities, and one day they put a broomstick to a door buck, and they asked if anybody could walk underneath here and wanted to make $300 a week to step forward. So of course we all did, and and what they put you through a bunch of procedures with I think pronunciation with how now brown cow and whatever, and then they asked if you could sing, and I had been singing with the black guys in the hallways and the bathrooms for a couple of years before that. I was about 9 years old at the time, and I sang "Why Do Fools Fall in Love" by Frankie Lyman. And I wasn't aware of what the magnitude of that was until a week later. I got the call because I made the finals from the entire New York City area to go down and audition for The Music Man on Broadway.
Whoa!
And I don't talk much about that because it was such a long time ago. And so my mom brought me down to the Majestic Theater down on 45th Street, and for 2 days, a day and a half anyway, I auditioned with a kid with the name Eddie Hodges. Eddie Hodges got the role on Broadway, and he also went on to sing High Hopes with Frank Sinatra, and had a couple of other pop tunes. And then it was myself, and there was another young kid that was a couple of years younger than us by the name of Ron Howard. So I didn't realize this till later on, but Eddie Hodges got the Broadway show. Ron Howard went on to play the same character in the film The Music Man, and I went back to the projects.
Whatever happened to that kid Ron Howard?
You know, I haven't heard a lot from him lately, but he's still fooling him. The way he puts these still. I actually went on to work for Ron for about 4 or 5 times later on. When I first met him, I reminded him of our first encounter, and it solidified a friendship and a respect that we've had for each other for a long time.
Did he do Backdraft?
Yeah.
He's the director of Backdraft. What's Billy's feelings about Backdraft?
Well, I mean, Backdraft the movie. I mean, every
Don't
5 minutes I thought that basically, if it was anything like that, there'd be nobody on the job. I mean, it was guys running with their coats open through burning. Everything was burning. I mean, that's neither here nor there.
That's Hollywood.
That's Hollywood. Yeah. I mean, if they ever showed you every cop show, I mean, every time you see a cop show, guys are pulling their guns, they're shooting. I mean, 90% of it, they'd be eating donuts in the car. I mean, let's face it, that's not the way life is. Nobody be on a job. You got to show,
Well, Jack, when we get done with this, Billy and I wrote a book called Combustible, which is basically about his career as a 20-year-old firefighter. When we get off the air, we'll get your address and we'll send you a copy.
I'd love to have.
I think you'd like to
recognize some of the guys in it, I believe, back in the day. So you were 9 years old and the bug bit then, right? That's when it bit.
Well, there was always something. I always wanted to get up and from my mom used to say that I used to, as soon as we got somewhere, I'd tap her on the leg and say, "Mom, you want me to sing now?" So there was always something going on, I had bands when I was a kid. When I was going to Cardinal Hayes, I had a little band that during the summertime we'd play up. We used to go to these bungalows up in Putnam Lake, New York, just north of Brewster, and I had a band that played there during the summers, and it was just something I always enjoyed doing, and one thing led to another. When I come back from school in Santa Fe, I only lasted 6 months because they wanted me to go to class, And the truth is, I had got a lot done in that 6 months. I did 3 plays. I started a coffee shop. This is back in 1967, and I became the liaison between the College of Santa Fe, and the musical acts that come in. The 5 stair steps come in. Eric Burdon and the Animals. So I was one of that got the opportunity to take them around town and show them a little bit of Santa Fe, and that's all in a 6-month period. So basically, I just faked my way through school until it was time for me to go back. And then
when you went back, how'd you avoid Vietnam?
Well, I went down for the physical, and I had a 1Y classification because when I was a kid, I was playing knocking around playing softball in the snow, and I fractured and crushed my left shoulder, and So I went down just figuring, okay, what I got to do, and then I got a notification that I had a 1Y classification, and that although didn't exempt me from it, that I would they would get back to me if they needed me. Wow. So that's kind of the way that happened, and they never called me, and I just made the conscious choice not to call them.
When Irish eyes were smiling on you, that's for sure.
That's
something. I got lucky. I got lucky.
That's a good decision not to call them, huh? So the first gig that you had that you decided this is going to be it. This is what I'm going to do. This is definitely what I want to do, acting.
Well, nothing would have happened, Billy, if it wasn't for the fire department. Like I said earlier on, that when you're an Irish kid or any kid from New York, you take the civil service exam because you know that there's a paycheck there, there's benefits, and there's and the like. And so once the fire department came along, I was doing some local theater up in Brookfield, Connecticut. I was living up near Brewster, New York, and I was commuting back into the city. And then I was doing a play up there, and Mike Nichols used to come up to to this particular theater in Brookfield because he had a summer place up there. And one of the nights after one of the shows, I think it was a musical, and he said, you shouldn't be here. I says, I looked at him and said, was it that bad? And he says, no, you should be in New York. And I really didn't know who Mike Nichols was. I had been knocking around with a gal that worked for him for a while. So she told me that she kind of educated me about who and what he did for a living. So then I just decided that, you think about stuff and you see things on the air, and then you say, well, I think if I think I could do some of that stuff. And so I decided to sell the house that I had up in Putnam Lake, New York, and move back to the Throgs next section of the Bronx, Pelham Bay, actually. And so I moved back into the city, and I had been going down to investigate what the temperature was like in Manhattan, and I got involved with a scene study class, and the first time we put a little showcase together. I was fortunate enough. I got somebody that wanted to represent me to do commercials, and so that's kind of where it started. And I did that for around 6 or 7 years, and then I started thinking to myself, you know what? If I want to make a go at this, it's most of the work is being done out in Los Angeles, and that was a big decision because I had you have the steady job, the civil service job, and there were guys when I first told them, and people I knew and family, when I told them what I was thinking about doing, they thought I was nuts, and rightfully so.
But you did it the right way, because Billy had a shocked look on his face when you attributed your success to the New York City Fire Department. But he often says, he often quotes Ed Koch, which when he says the fire department is the best part-time job in America because it gives you 3 or 4 days to do whatever you want.
Right.
And you could pursue acting in those 3 or 4 days. And it was a great job for you, because you could pursue acting.
Well, you can pursue anything. The guys that I went to, that I worked with in the firehouse, and my brother worked there. My brother Bernie was a lieutenant with the fire department down in 84 and 34 in Manhattan, and he had two guys that were going to law school at the time.
Yep.
And we had guys. I had a guy named Charlie Law that was oddly enough who worked at the 38 and 51, who was studying to be a lawyer. So it really was a job that gave you the flexibility with the hours. And in my case, if I needed to if I found out on a Tuesday that I had something that they wanted to see me for on Wednesday down in Manhattan, I had the 20 or 30 guys and had their phone numbers. I could call them and say to them, hey, listen, can you work for me tomorrow days, and I'll work for you tomorrow night, which meant they get to be off for a night tour with 6 extra hours. So it was. I don't think I in the 8 or 10 years that I was juggling that I ever really missed any opportunities.
That's
so. If it was in fact the reason why I was able to pursue the acting career.
Well, while you were pursuing your acting career, Billy was pursuing women, drugs, booze, and slow horses.
So was everybody else from the Bronx.
Oh yeah, and by the way, and so was I too. I'd like to take along on that.
You know what, Jack? In all fairness, though, I mean, yeah, the job gave you the flexibility, but still took a lot of balls to take to blow out in New York and then go out to LA and take a shot on your own talent. I mean, that takes a lot of balls.
And Billy, here's the truth of it: is that I realized that later on, but at the time, it just seemed like the natural thing. You know, I remember watching Yankee Doodle Dandy with my dad. And watching James Cagney dance down the steps of the White House. And I remember thinking to myself and actually saying to him, that's what I want to do that.
By the way,
it's Frank's favorite scene in any movie.
That's my favorite scene in any movie, backed up by Hope and Cagney tap dancing to Seven Little Fours.
Right.
Yep.
And you mean and later on when they did the benefit.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, I know.
And he's the reason why I was pursuing this, and it's, as it turns out, before I forget it, and I probably will, although it's about me, so I always like to talk about it. But when I met when I first met the guy that I had been told I looked so much like Charles Durning,
right?
You know, and I did a movie with Charles Durning, and I remember the first time I met him, I was really excited because I've been hearing for so many years out here how much I resembled him, and blah blah blah, and. So I said, Charlie, it's great. It's great, Jack McGee. It's great to meet you. And he looked at me and he said to me, "Who the fuck do you think you are, looking like me?" You know, and the love affair began. And I used to hang on every word with this guy, and he was just a terrific. And then later on, I worked with him on Rescue Me. He played Denis Leary's dad in Rescue Me for a few seasons. And I remember listening to him tell stories because I had no idea that Charlie Durning was so close with Cagney that they used to have dinner with each other every Thursday night for like 10 or 15 years. So I would listen to these stories and just be thrilled with that connection.
Do you remember any of them? Or do you remember one that you would feel comfortable sharing?
No. There wasn't. The truth of the matter, there wasn't anything that earth-shattering or whatever. It's just that they would. You know, it's like when you talk about somebody that you've known for a while. You very rarely talk about the stuff that's going to be either uncomfortable to them or fun. Somewhere once in a while you have a funny thing to say about somebody. But here's the point. What happened is that as I got to know Charlie. And you know, this is part of all part of the dream that when you're a kid, that I remember him talking just he was just a guy, and about his career in the military, which he had never really spoken about much, and had the laughs that they used to have, like you guys have. It's two guys working with each other, so they were peers of each other. And then I remember when Charlie Durning got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I thought to myself, "Oh, I got to go out. I got to go to that." And I found out about it. I went down there, and I brought a picture. I'll send you this picture. It's kind of wild. It's a profile, nose to nose, of me and Charlie Durning. You know, and when you look at it, it's like two really, really hungover subjects from Mount Rushmore, or Mount You Rush Too Much. You know, and. So I bring it down there, and Charlie was kind of teetering on his dementia and his stuff at that time. And I brought it to his wife, Marianne, and I had met her a couple of times. And I said to her, "Did Charlie tell you?" And she completed my sentence and said, "About the first thing he said to you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Yes, he did." And he said, she repeated, she says, "Who the fuck do you think you are, looking like me?" And then she said something to me. She said, "Did he tell you the other half of that?" And I said, no, what do you mean, they have for that? And she said to me, that is the first thing that Cagney said to him.
Whoa!
And I thought to myself, that's the only Hollywood story I have. That's the only one I know is true because I heard it right from her, and then I'm complete with that.
And I was just thinking before you brought up, you look like Charlie Durning, that you're looking like Cagney looked later in his later years.
Right. Right.
That ain't a bad compliment at all, pal. I'll take that.
Oh, it's a great compliment. And the guy that was on Rescue Me with me, John Scurdy, a really, really good actor. I came across an article he did with when the show was in its heyday, and his comment was you put James Cagney and dynamite in the blender, and you get Jack McGee. And I haven't seen that in a long time. I just thought to myself, holy crap! When the connection that's there brings me right back to my dad. My dad has been gone a lot of years now, but when I think of the time that I got to spend with him, he died when I was 22 years old. And even when I think of any time that I think about him, I get pretty emotional about it. But just to have that connection with my dad and knowing that was our guy, we used to watch this thing, of course, every time around the 4th of July, and watch all these other movies, the West Point Story, all the musicals, as well as the drama stuff. So to have that kind of thing happen and know that there was that connection, because I never get to meet him. I thought I might have gotten the opportunity to work on I forget what the last film that he did.
I was just trying to think of it also.
Ragtime.
Ragtime, yes. But so there's always been that, and I've met different actors that have worked with Charlie, and then they've without provoking have said that I reminded of him, and which is great. And I think that when you're watching films, you're watching movies, when you're so young and you're impressionable, that stuff can't that stuff can't help but become a thread of who you are. And so that's the only Hollywood story I have that I know is true. I've made a few up.
I tell you, it's if you're a kid growing up in the Bronx, and I think I'm about a year older than you, Jack, and watching all those movies, the 30s and the 40s, and watching Cagney, always the tough guy, always the gangster, the prison movies, all that stuff.
Right.
I mean, he was like God to an Irish kid. This was like the unmistakable mark of the gutter that Cagney had in his voice and the way he acted.
Right.
And I remember reading Cagney saying, on acting, he said, look, you learn your lines, you hit your mark, and you look them straight in the face and tell them the truth.
That's it. You lock your knees and you tell the truth. And he was a guy who he started. There's a great book called Cagney by Cagney, an autobiography, and he started one of his first roles on stage was playing a female in the Yiddish theater group on the Lower East Side.
I read the book. Yeah, he started in Dre.
Yeah,
exactly right.
Just a terrific memoir, and yeah.
He said, "You do what you got to do. You're hungry. You do what you got to do. You want the part, you do it. That's it." And that's
right. And sometimes you got to have a little bit of luck. You got to have luck, right place, right time. There's a lot of guys I know that have been in this business for a long time, that have studied and have done all sorts of workshops and do showcases all the time. They just never get a break. I think that you get grateful for what you got, and you get the opportunity to do something you really enjoy doing.
Well, we've done over 100 episodes, and we've had some fascinating guys on this show. And I got to tell you, Jack, nobody has ever been on the show and didn't say luck had a big part of it.
Oh, of course. Right place, right time. I don't hear you, like you said before, guys said, what are you doing? What are you leaving the job for? You got, and I remember I just said, I don't know. It's just something I think can happen. And there are times, and nowadays is part of that it's been quiet for me the last year and a half. And of course, the ego is not your amigo. I want to once in a while I fall into a little bit of the pity party, but then to make sure that I can get myself right sized, I just step outside and go for a dip in my pool.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take me much to realize how fortunate I am to be asked by a couple of guys from back east to come in and do their podcast and get to reconnect again.
Yeah. No, delighted to have you, man.
You've been in a number of firefighter movies, including Rescue Me, which you were a principal in for 4 years. How do they differ, and what was the most realistic, do you think?
Well, as Billy said, you can't recreate what goes on in a fire. It's organized chaos. You can't see, you can't breathe. And the poster with Kurt Russell coming out holding a kid in his white shirt and stuff. That's Hollywood. Yeah. That's Hollywood showbiz. And at its time, it gave you it did very well. And it gave you a little insight as to what the guys were like that were in the firehouse. And then along comes something like Rescue Me, which that's the closest I've been witness to it, as to give you an idea of what it was like in the firehouse.
I couldn't agree with you more. I thought,
and then still they take liberties. It's part of the business. I think there was a little too much. Too many bleach jobs on Denis Leary's hair, and it all became about him and the sunglasses. God bless him. Not that I'm holding on to a resentment at all.
Yeah, I thought Leary, towards the end of the show, it got to be more about Leary, and he started becoming more like Superman. It was like the beginning, the early years when you were on it, and not blowing your horn, but when you were on it, the show was just better, and not necessarily because of you, but the show was better. The scripts were more on the level. It seemed like it was more like what it was like.
Well, and they also had second storylines for all the other characters, and I'm very grateful to him. I had for big time because he let me go, and that's another whole story that I can talk to my sponsor about. But the guys the storylines that were there, I had great storylines. I had the storyline of having the wife who was suffering from Alzheimer's. I had the storyline of having a son who was gay. And that all come out of a conversation with Peter Tolan, who was Denis Leary's co-writer. And Peter and I got to be very close. He came to see some of the shows when I first started up in Connecticut. And then we started talking about the fact that my brother Tom was gay and died of AIDS in 1989. And I told him that how much of the renewal of a relationship that my father and he had before my father passed away. And because my dad came from a time period where they just didn't know how to talk about it. Yeah. They didn't know how to talk about it. They loved their kids, but they didn't know. Were they concerned what other people might think? Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe. I don't know. So this conversation he and I had, and all of a sudden 2 or 3 weeks later, the storylines started coming in. So I got to in some small way make an amends between my dad and my brother Tom, and my brother Tom and my dad, and get to share a little bit of their story. And as soon as that started happening, I would get stopped in the street down in the village, and then even sometimes when I was away in these, I'd be walking down to one of these gay communities, I get stopped in the street, and my guys telling me how much they appreciated that storyline and how much it helped them reconnect with their parents, and that's pretty great stuff. Yeah. So I had no. I mean, I can bitch and moan about the fact that I can. That's not for you. That's for my sponsor. But for the most part, it was a really, really great experience.
Yeah, I don't think people realize, unless they are our age, how everything was kept in the closet. If you were gay, it was like, I remember being in New Orleans when I came back from Nam in 1970, and I was astonished at the amount of gays that lived in the quarter, because what happens in the South, if you're gay in Mississippi or gay in Alabama, and your dad's got money, he says, well, here, take some money and get the hell out of town. Go to New Orleans, go go do your thing, like the village, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think people realize just how uptight society was about that.
Well, and when you think about it, what do you know, I don't have kids. I have a lot of nieces and nephews. How do you send your kid away? What does that fear all about?
Yeah.
You know, what does that feel all about? And meanwhile, the ones that are professing, the ones that are making jokes about them, the ones that are creating legislation to stop them from using the same bathroom. So you think to yourself, well, what are these? Is that who do they go to for some spiritual guidance? You know, so it's thank goodness some of that has changed. You know,
well, it's good when people can come together and reconcile before it's too late.
And you know, that all starts with somebody taking the step and saying, "This is what my experience was." I don't know about you, and then sometimes it's just like when you're trying to help somebody stop doing the one thing that's killing them, like whether it be alcohol, drugs, whatever. I never learned anything by somebody waving their finger at me. You know, I learned by somebody saying, "Well, I don't know, this is what I did.
Yeah.
This is what I did. This is how I feel. How do you feel?" And then the lines of communication open up. And I remember guys knocking around the firehouse and all the jokes, all the fad jokes coming about. And they'd always say to me, because I always had something to say, they said, "Hey, McGee, what do you think about this?" And I remember one day in the kitchen saying, "Well, you know, I got a different take on it. My brother Tom is gay, and I just got a real different take on it. So I'm just going to keep my mouth shut." And within 24 hours, two of the guys that you would never in a million years would ever think you'd have this conversation with down there in the basement watching the TV or something, they come up to you and say, "Hey, you know, I got a nephew of mine that's a little," you know, I says, what do I say to him? I said, "Do you love him?" "Oh," he says, "Oh yeah, he's the greatest kid in the world." I just tell him you love him. Because we're all worried about what somebody else is going to think. You know?
We had a gay character in Combustible.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
At the end, that's right. The book. Derek, you wanted to ask a question? I'm sorry.
I just wanted to ask. I think it's this is a very pertinent subject matter, and especially since you guys are from the next generation after me, and typically for your generation, though your father wasn't accepting, or your father's generation, your generation is not fully accepting of let's say gay culture, if you will. So, and I think that conversation that you had with the guy in the fire department about saying that he loves his nephew, is there any kind of advice that you could offer to help people in your generation be more accepting of people that are gay?
Well, it's a great question, and the truth of the matter is, it doesn't happen overnight. You know, it doesn't happen overnight because everybody. If you live in a community where you walk out the door and there's 8 million people living in the same city, you're going to have the communication. You can't help but communicate with people. I grew up in the projects in the South Bronx. There were 1,000 people lived in my building. There were 10 buildings in the complex. You walked outside, there were 10,000 people within a 4-block square area. You're going to have communications going to be a little bit better. But when you're in Runny Nose, Iowa, when you're in someplace else, it's going to take a while. And plus all the stuff that's getting thrown. Look at the way, I didn't want to get involved in politics, but look at the way where the chatter is just going around now, because you would think that with social media, it would improve things, and it has. But also, on the other hand, you have the other element where nobody has to be held accountable for what it is they're saying and what they're writing or how they're feeling, whether they're feeling that way or not. They can still spread it out, and I think we still have a long way to go. All I can do is do what I do. I'm never comfortable around hearing the bashing of anybody, you know. And Billy will tell you, you're in the kitchen of the firehouse. You want to survive in the kitchen of the firehouse, you better. And there are very, very few guys that come after me, with any kind of cheap joke. You hear more because if you give it out, you got to be ready to take it.
That's right. The only way to stop a ball breaker is to break his fucking balls twice as hard, twice as fast.
Well, or maybe just go to, you try to reverse things. You say, you said that to me the other day, and God forbid you got to learn to tell somebody, that really hurt my feelings, and then watch what they do with that.
In the firehouse.
Even the truth is, Billy, even if it's one shot at a time, then you get to open up a conversation with that guy. I had conversations with those two fellows I'm talking about their nephews, about their family, because we sometimes don't think we're responsible for what our upbringing was. I mean, you hear all of this stuff. You hear all the comments about the street slang about the people. It's all fear-based.
Right.
It's all fear-based about if I make fun of them, well, because what are they going to take away from me? They're going to take my job. They're going to take this, that. It's all fear-based, and I've found that I've been able to get in touch with my fears on a daily basis, and I realize that that's all they are, is fears. It's what I do with them, and I asked the guy upstairs to help me with them.
Did you ever have to, on the fire department, run into Buscemi, or later on as an actor, or have you worked with him, or have you talked about these things?
Oh, no, because most of the times when I run into Steve, it's usually at an event, or if it's at one of these Hollywood awards show. And when we do see each other, we just look at each other and say, they haven't caught up to us yet, have they?
Well, you know what? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, we got to laugh about it. But I haven't gotten to talk to him about stuff like that. But I don't know. I don't know what Steve's experience has been. That would be a good thing to ask him about.
I never met Buscemi because he was a fireman, because you're a fireman. All firemen follow your careers, because it's Jack McGee, because it's Steve Buscemi, because of who you were. But I did know his captain, Buscemi, when he was leaving. Was it 10 engine? Is that where you come out? I think 10, right?
Was it 10? Yeah.
Anyway, he was coming out, and the captain said to him, Steve, you're not that good looking, Steve. He says, and you got pension here, you got this, Did you get any shit when you decided to make the move? Anybody say to you, hey, look, man, you're leaving a great job here. You got healthcare, you got this, you got that. They talk you out of it. Try and talk you out of it.
No, I think what happens to a lot of guys is everybody's got maybe different dreams or an ambition, and some guys just fall into it or whatever. And most of the times the guys would say, I'm really not that sorry to see you leave, because that means there's more overtime for me.
Yeah.
The overtime will open up. We got one guy down, but no, they used to say, what? What do you mean? Because nobody leaves. Nobody leaves that until at least to get their 20, and or they get thrown off the job. But that wasn't the case. And the truth of the matter is, but what happens though, you find out later on when they get in touch with you after you've made it. They'll say to you, they'll say, I remember stories getting told where if I had something I was in a film, let's say Backdraft, just for the heck of it, at the local theater, and they friends of mine that I knew would go to see the film, and then right in the middle of the film, as soon as if I come on the screen, you'd hear somebody saying, that fuck owes me $20. So when you hear that, that's, you're home.
Yeah.
Or when you walk into the gym, I go to see them when I stop back. I can't make a lot of stops because I'll be all over the place. So I will tell them I'll meet them up at, let's say, Casey's up on East Tremont Avenue. And I'll walk into Casey's at a certain time, 6, 7 o'clock at night. And I make sure it's early in the night, because if I made it later in the night, you wouldn't be able to understand what any of them were saying. So when I walk in the door, that what you hear is, hey, look who it is, Robert De Niro, you fat fuck. What'd you do, gain all that weight from the part? And you know what? And the truth is, you're home.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
And when you're not there, they're bragging. they're branded everybody that they know about you. And then also too, I got the unbelievable privilege of doing my first ever Broadway show 2 years ago. I got a role on the. I never thought that I'd be doing theater because when they're making money with you doing TV and film, theater doesn't pay that much. It's a hard racket to break into, and I remember there were 70 of them, and Tommy LaMarche was one of them. Kevin Casey, a bunch of guys that I worked with. 35 firefighters with their wives came down and saw me on Broadway.
What was the play?
It was called The Iceman Cometh.
Iceman Cometh.
With Denzel Washington.
Denzel Washington. Not a bad gig for opening on Broadway.
Well, and it was like, and every once in a while when I'm feeling sorry for myself, I'll say, hey, Waldo, you've done everything you needed to do here. You got a great life. You've been fooling for a long time. And 60 years later, I walked down the first day we went in to rehearse on the stage. I walked down that same alleyway that I walked with my mother when I was 8 years old, because the Majestic Theater was right next to the Jacobs. The Jacobs is where we were doing Iceman Cometh, and the Majestic Theater was where, at the age of 8 years old, I walked down that alley and auditioned for the Music Man with holding my mother's hand.
Wow.
So to have that happen, it puts everything into perspective. I like to think that I suffered from a disease of more.
Yeah.
Don't we?
I want my land. Meanwhile, the truth of the matter is, I've been taken care of pretty well.
Yeah, me too. You are by definition a working actor. My friend Stephen Lang used to say, the only thing I want when I wake up on January 1st is to make my year. Everything else is a bonus.
Right.
You were working constantly, and then in 2010 you got the role of George Ward in The Fighter.
Yes.
When Mark Walberg was playing Mickey Ward. Why don't you tell us a little about that experience?
Well, I got the call from the agent that the director wanted to see me, and he wanted to see me at his house, and I'd never had that before. David O. Russell. So I went up to his house, and we chatted for a bit, and he had me read one of the scenes, the scene where I chase Christian Bale's character down the alleyway, and he goes to hop over the fence, and he takes a swing at me and knocks me on my ass. So we rehearsed this thing, and then I thought to myself, it didn't feel right to me, but I did know enough that once you do this stuff, try to shake it and just let it go. And so when I got the call to go and do that, you never know with these things. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if they're going to be something like The Fighter was. I've also been a part of a movie. Did one day on it, Crash, that won an Academy Award. Or I've also done movies like Showgirls.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you about that later.
I'm sure you will.
It's a paycheck, right? I mean, you've done some.
You never know what the outcome's going to be. You go and do it. You knew there was something great about it, and you knew there was the feeling was good about it, and there was certainly some clout in that cast. And I remember thinking once I was up there for a week or two, okay, I can step into the batter's box with these folks, and it wound up being an incredible experience. I'm still very, very close, and I chat 2-3 times a year. And when I was still living back in LA, we used to have lunch once in a while with Christian Bale. And there's a guy who I was with him for 6 weeks when we did the film, and I never knew he had an English accent.
Yeah, he doesn't come out of character when he's in a movie.
Never.
He's a very intense actor.
Oh, and he's very sweet and wonderful, and they love to hear me sing the rock and roll and doo-wop and stuff. But then as soon as they say, "Okay, we're ready for you," boom, that other guy came around. It was a great experience. And then they actually let me, a kid from the South Bronx, get up and and accept the Critics' Choice Award when they won it. And I was standing in the background, and Amy Adams and Christian Bale says, "Get up here." And they had me, they gave me the opportunity, the honor of getting that piece of hardware, and of course then you think, well, that's it. If we won this, we're going to win it all. And then for the next 10 years, I had a resentment against the film, The Fucking King's Speech, those British fucks.
Stuttering.
Wait a minute.
Stuttering.
Well, I got to leave right now. I have to leave, boys, now because I have to call my sponsor about that one.
Yeah.
No. So that wound up being a great experience.
Well, when you're talking about sponsor, do you have any other actors that you want to call your sponsor about now that you want to vent on?
No, and even then, the truth of the matter was, if I want to, if you get upset about anything in any time in life, if I remember I was upset when I got let go from Rescue Me. I still to this day don't know why. Blah this, and I can make stuff up in my head. But then what I got to learn how to do when I was working with a sponsor is to say, well, wait a minute, isn't Denis Leary the guy that gave you the opportunity to have 3 or 4, almost 4 good seasons on a show that redefined your career and brought you up to a recognizability that allowed you to work for the next 10 to 12 years.
Yep.
So once I got to that point, and I realized it was all about my favorite subject, me, that I was embarrassed about it, and I had nothing to be embarrassed about. I was angry about it. I took a hit financially, and that, just like anybody else. And then of course, you think, wait a minute. The guys that I know that are the greatest guys in the world never complain about anything, and they don't even make their insurance. They don't make their nut for the year.
Yep.
So
they don't make that $35,000 necessary.
Whatever it is. And the truth is, in the last couple of years, I haven't even made that, and I'm not complaining. But I'm lucky enough that I've worked long enough that I don't have to go out and hustle as much anymore. I still want to work. Yeah. I still want to go out because I love being around the guys and girls that make the magic. I like being around guys like you guys that do this whole social thing. And then sometimes it comes out to be an award-winning thing. Sometimes it goes straight to DVD.
Yeah, well, that's why everybody asks me, I'm 72 years old, why are you still working at Warner Brothers? Because I like the action. I don't need the money. I like the action. Right. I like the juice. I like to be around the people.
Right.
I'm working on Night Court now. I'm working on Call Me Cat now. I get to hang around with John LaRoquette. It's a great gig.
I did one of my first episodes was on Night Court.
Really? Yeah, I saw that. You actually did a Murphy Brown as well. And
I did a Murphy Brown, but Night Court. If you run into John LaRoquette, please tell him I was asking for.
Yeah, he's going to be on yes, we'll talk to him for sure. For sure.
Great.
You have worked with some amazing heavyweights. I mean, all across the line. Directors, especially. I'm looking at Ronnie Howard, Ridley Scott, Oliver Stone. Which director really had the biggest impact on you? You really thought like that? This guy is like. Was there anybody that stands out like this is the man? This guy I'll never forget.
I haven't had a role that I've had to. I enjoyed working with the Coen brothers. I did a The Man Who Wasn't There with the Coen brothers, and they were funny because they would both come back and forth in directing. And one of Joe would come up and say something to me, and then 2 minutes later, Ethan would come up and say something. He would say, "What did my brother tell you?" And I used to say to him, "He told me to stay the fuck away from you." And then we would laugh, and then we'd go on and do it. But sometimes. I like to go out and work now, so sometimes you get young kids that they'll come up to you and say, "Mr. McGee," I said, "Let's stop with the Mr. shit." And can you say anything? I said, "What do you want?" "We're doing a little student film." I said, "All right, what do you got?" "All right, when is it?" And then I'll take their information if I can do it, and I'll say, "How much? What kind of money are we talking about?" "Well, we don't have any money." I said, "That's good, because you're not going to expect too much, And I even enjoy doing that, because the way I look at it, and this is really honest as I can get, I got mine.
Yep.
I got my stuff. I got my juice. I want more.
Yep.
I want more. I want your book to turn into to a movie, and I want to do and I want. But if none of that happens anymore, I've been pretty fortunate, and I've been pretty fortunate with the actors and the directors and the crew. If you know this, right? The guys and girls who are in the crew, that's where I come from, the blue collar background. That's the reason why you put 200 people together for a month and a half that never met each other. And then slowly but surely you get to see how the magic happens.
And
you know, and
and you have to realize that those people are predominantly working paycheck for paycheck. They're just employees.
And they don't get any, they don't get any of the notoriety, they don't get any of the attention, and yet they're the ones, if Frank, if you and I, well, I don't know if we'd ever do a love scene, but you and I do a love scene, but if it's not in focus, it doesn't make the film. So that focus puller has to feel that he's as important to the productions. And if you miss that, if you don't get that, you miss the magic.
If you and I did a love scene, it for sure wouldn't be in focus.
Yeah, I was.
I'll tell you what.
It for sure wouldn't be in focus.
Your lighting wouldn't be very good, I'll tell you that.
So, but going back to Showgirls, that film was in focus, thankfully.
Yeah.
You played a stage crew member on that, didn't you? Backstage.
I did.
Backstage.
I did.
What did you see?
And Paul Verhoeven I had done Basic Instinct with a small role in Basic Instinct, and he called me up and he asked me if I wanted to come up to Lake Tahoe for 6 weeks and watch 26 naked women run around the stage. And I was still drinking and using at the time, so I said, I think I can help you with that. I went up to Lake Tahoe, and I had a good time, and the young girl Elizabeth, she was very very sweet. You never know which one's going to hit and which one isn't. Now it's got a cult following because it's supposed to be one of the worst movies there ever was. But people are seeing it, people are renting it, and every once in a while you get 45 cents in the residual check.
I thought Elizabeth Berkley we auditioned Elizabeth Berkley for a show. I think it was Daddy Dearest, starring Don Rickles and Richard Lewis or something like that.
Yeah.
I thought she was the most beautiful girl I had seen in person.
She was a lovely kid. She's a lovely kid. But this business that sometimes can eat you up, It's like I had the opportunity to go and do a 2 days work on Parenthood with Ron Howard, or I could do 2 weeks for the same money on a film called Cool as Ice with Vanilla Ice. And so I chose to do, because I didn't know who this kid was, this rapper, this guy. He only lasted 15 minutes, but I chose to, because I wanted to see what the experience was like to find out what this guy was all about that everybody was talking about. I had no idea, and I wound up having a good time. It was a shit film; nobody's ever seen it, but it's you never know when you go out the door if you accept the role where it's going to take you.
Yeah. So I understand you're a colon cancer survivor. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, that's Harvey Keitel saved my life. I was working on a film called Breakdown with Jonathan Mostow, the director, good guy. And he called me about 6 months later. He says, Jack, I think I got something for you. I said, okay, great. And he said it was a movie called U-571. And it was a film that was going to be done, and we were all set 2 months before time. Going to be in Malta for 2 months. Malta? I didn't know what Malta was. But I knew it sounded good the way it rolled off my tongue. And take my wife over there, eat pasta in Malta. So, a long story short, he calls me up about 3 weeks before we're going to leave. And he says, I got some bad news. What's the matter? Are your kids okay? Everybody, yeah, they're okay. He says, they want to go with the name. I said, okay. I'll change my fucking name. What do you want me to do? And that's the God's honest truth. And he told me that I'm sorry. He told me that I says they want to go with Harvey Keitel. So I took a hit. I took the thing, and my wife, after about a week, my wife says, usually if you really go after something and you get ready for something, if it doesn't work out, and it happened a couple of times on smaller projects. She says, well, you're sitting around like a mope, and I I said, yeah, okay. She says, well, usually we go for our physicals in the beginning around your birthday, February 2nd. She said, but the doctor's got an opening this Friday. And I told him maybe we'd take it for the both of us. Okay. So I went in that Friday and I found out that they called me back that night and said I was hemorrhaging severely anemic. And I went in and got a colonoscopy the following week. And at the end of the week, they went in and they cut out a 6-inch tumor in my colon. So now if I get my way, first of all, we never meet. Right. We don't meet because I've done a lot of work with the colon cancer survivors with Katie Couric, and her husband let it go for 9 months, and, he didn't make it. He died. So if I get it was a great lesson for me. If I get everything that I think I want, maybe it's not the best thing in the world, you know. So whenever I go to talk to one of these charity events, I tell the story about how Harvey Keitel saved my life.
Did you ever?
Because if I get that job, obviously you don't pay attention to it.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Well, you just mentioned that getting what you want, sometimes not getting what you want is the better road. And you mentioned about the disease of more. How long have you been sober, Jack? How long have you been in AA? Because you mentioned
I'm just over 27 years.
27 years.
Yeah, it's including weekends.
And when were you diagnosed with colon cancer? How long ago was that?
A year after I got sober.
Yeah. So I wonder.
A year after I met my wife. A year and a half after I got sober. Right after I met my wife. I met my wife in the 12-step program.
I wonder if your abuse has contributed to your colon cancer.
Well, I don't know.
Couldn't help. It couldn't have helped.
Yeah, right.
Well, I can tell you one thing: if you were drinking, you wouldn't be paying too much attention to your.
Well, yeah, right, exactly.
You don't pay attention to anything when you're drinking and using. I mean, I've been sober about 15, 16 years, and I know when I was drinking. I mean, I wrote 3 books about being drunk, and if I remembered half the shit that I did, I could have wrote 10 books.
Right.
You don't remember shit. I mean, the blackout you weren't really drinking until you blacked out. I mean, that was part of the deal.
Yeah, or sometimes it's even worse. You don't black out, but you just keep on living that. You don't die. You just keep on living the same way over and over and over again.
Are you living back in New York now? Or
am I? No, I've been in LA for some 30, 35, 40 years, and now I moved 2 years ago out to Rancho Mirage near Palm Springs.
Oh, okay. See, I know you say you're not in Burbank anymore, so you moved. I was guessing you moved back east, but you like the desert, huh?
Well, we wanted a new adventure, and we fantasized and we romanced the idea of maybe going back to Woodstock, New York. But my wife is from Van Nuys, California, and I didn't think she'd be thrilled about the winters, so we moved out here, and we did well. The move was good for us, but it's hot out here. We had to we're making arrangements for next July and August to rent a place out by the water somewhere where it's cooler.
Yeah, that Palm Desert. It's
a little warm.
Joshua Tree country, right on your way out there, right?
Yeah, it's just stupid. It's just stupid.
It's not hot. It's stupid hot.
Yeah. And you go out and like today, it's a little after 11 o'clock. You got to get everything done by about this time. And then if you go out, you either go out to the air conditioned mall, or I've been going because when the weather is nice, my wife and I hike. We take there's great hiking trails here, great walking trails. But now it's so hot you can't. You're stepping on your tongue. Yeah. And then we want to go into this where we became members of the Silver Sneakers.
Ooh, keep walking.
That's for senior citizens over 65. You can go to these gyms on the arm, and we like stuff on the arm. So that'll be an outlet to go out and get a little walk and get a little exercise in.
On the arm.
Senior sneakers, silver sneakers. I like it, yeah. Well, they called us, a couple of people called us the Tonight Show, the senior tour.
Yeah.
Definitely the senior tour.
Oh, yeah, the Ben Gay crowd.
Yeah, Ben Gay.
Don't eat the purple blood pressure pills. No matter what
exactly.
you do. Stay away from that.
Hey, Derek, you got any final questions for Jack?
Two questions. The first one is most talented actor, and what I mean by talented, I mean someone who mesmerized you when you worked with them.
Oh, Christian Bale.
Christian
Wow.
Bale. Okay. Any particular reason why? Just his intensity, or
Just his commitment.
okay.
His commitment to the character. And he had a mouthpiece that he had made for this role and for the entire. Well, I wasn't there, but I was there 6 weeks, and they did one another 2. So for 2 months, he never took the mouthpiece out.
Wow.
You know, and yeah, just a really, and then when we were off set with him, he was terrific. He was warm. He was funny. He was wonderful. He was engaging, and but you knew that once he got to work, when he came out, it was like the girls in that movie, The Fighter, the daughters in that movie. When they walked into the dressing room or the makeup trailer in the morning with their clickety little flip flops on, and they were just the cutest things in the world. But when they come out of that fucking makeup trailer, they were like terrorizing sluts. It was horrible. So yeah, I would say Christian Bale. Derek, thanks.
Okay.
But again, that flies in the face of Olivier to Dustin Hoffman. Try acting.
Yeah, exactly. It's just too many people get cerebral about it. You know, where am I going to go? Should I get in touch with my inner child? Inner child, this just fucking say the lines, hit your mark, look him straight in the eye, and tell the truth.
Cagney again.
And then the other question, I called Billy a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week ago, and I asked him. There are renditions of this in many movies where Irish guys are in a bar. Sometimes they're Scottish too, but Irish guys are in a bar and somebody decides to sing a song, and all of a sudden the whole bar knows the song. Have you ever experienced this before in your life?
Billy starts singing and Jack will sing along.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Is
Billy, why don't you start singing a song and see if Jack knows the words?
Oh, I bet I'm sure. Like Jack's been in Ireland many times. I know a couple of guys that ran into him over there. But if you're in Ireland and somebody starts singing in a pub, you know most of the words, especially the.
Well, yeah, well, you know them either that or you're. By that time, you're so loaded, you're speaking Swahili anyway, and nobody cares. They're exchanging body fluids with the guy next to them.
I got a quick question for you, Jack. I mean, so many great actors you've worked with: Bobby De Niro, Kurt Russell, Michael Keaton, Robert Duvall, Robert Mitchum. Has anybody ever intimidated you? Did you feel intimidated before you started working with them? Like, oh, this is Robert Mitchum or something along them lines?
Well, I didn't have the Robert Mitchum, but I did. I got to work with two guys, George Hamilton and then Roger Moore. I got to work with Roger Moore on a film called The Quest, and I remember I was pretty excited about it. I spent 2 months in Thailand with Roger the Dodger, and the first time I met him, I says, "Rogers, it's Jack McGee. It's a pleasure to meet you." And he says to me, "I'm sure it is."
Nice.
So as we went on, and then he had a little scratch on his hand. He had a Band-Aid on him. He said, "Here, would you care for the Band-Aid of an international star?"
Jesus.
And I said to him, "No, I already got one from Sean Connery, the real James Bond."
Oh.
And he looked at me and he said, "Oh, so the round man has a sense of humor." And I said, "Well, 009, he certainly fucking does."
Nice.
For 2 months, the love affair had, just like Charlie Durney, had begun. The kindest, the funniest, the silliest, and the stories about of him with the Sinatras and all the guys, and then the other guy too was George Hamilton. I did a small little film that I think you'd love it to see it. It didn't go. It won a few festivals. It's called Silver Skies, and there were a lot of. There was Alex Rocco, Valerie Perrine. It's about a group of older folks that live in a complex, and they find out that within 30 days they either have to buy their apartment, which no one can afford, or they're going to get thrown out. And I got to work and play the sidekick and the guy that was the caretaker for George Hamilton, who has the early stages of Alzheimer's. and it was just the most rewarding experience. You know, you get a lot of attention sometimes with the films that are bigger, but the ones you remember the most are the small, little, independent ones where you really get to know the people that are in the cast and in the crew. So I've been very fortunate. And then now, and look at this, and I'm on two mixing them up.
Yeah,
a murky muck.
A murky muck.
Yeah, it was supposed to. I explained the title of this, but we were supposed to be two mooks and a mic, but
Right.
somebody had taken two mooks, so Billy's wife suggested a mook, and a mic, and who got to be the mook? Me.
Well, you're Italian, Frank. It fits. You know,
Yeah,
I could
yeah.
be in Egypt, the mook and the mic.
Well, then it would be the Egypt,
The alliteration. We needed the alliteration.
the Egypt, the idiot, and
Jack,
whatever.
it's so good to connect with you after all that.
It's good to see you guys.
No kid, man. It's really, really good. I'm delighted you came on, and I mean, I could talk
Happy
to you
to.
for hours, man. It's just going back to the Bronx, and so many guys, Tommy Palmer, so many guys say hello, and guys that you know and I know. Tommy, I know for years because he was my bookmaker for years, and
Right?
before I branched out on my own.
Right. And there was a guy that just passed away. He was a terrific guy, Pete Calamari, the Squid they used to call him. But he was an Engine 38, and he was an English teacher on the side. Like I said, everybody has a side job. The fire department's the side job, and everybody else is pursuing their careers. But there are a lot of good guys, and I have a lot of great memories. And whenever I'm back in New York, if I get up to that area in the Bronx, I like to get together with them so they can abuse me.
Hell yeah. Welcome home, you fat fuck. Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Exactly.
We know you're home.
Well,
Exactly.
Yeah.
We'll have a great memory of this podcast for sure. Thank you so
Great.
much, Jack. It'll air probably in October.
Jack, you got anything you want to push? I'm sorry.
I got nothing. I'm pushing unemployment. You got a job for me? It's okay. It's all good.
You can come work for us because we're making the same amount as you.
Let me tell you, it hasn't gotten that bad yet.
Yeah. Thanks, Jack.
Thanks so much, Jack. Go on a high note.
Pleasure, guys.
Thank
Be
you,
well.
Okay.
pal.
Be
All the
well.
best.
All right.
Stay well.
Bye.
That was fun.
He's a great guy, man.
That was
A
fun.
lot of fun, and great stories. And you know, Roger Moore, George Hamilton. I'm talking the names. I'm asking about Michael Keaton, Robert Duvall, Kurt Russell, Bobby De Niro,
And he's talking about Roger Moore and George Hamilton.
which you wouldn't expect. But I mean,
But we've heard the phrase we've often heard in this room.
Adi up, ain't nothing like Adi up. I tell you, firemen love Frios, Frio shirt, Frio this, Frio hat. Yeah, they're big on Frios.
Well,
But yeah, Jackson, that's really, really good guy. And well, I hope to God that you know, in his career, he started out like there was 5 or 6 years. Then, like anybody else's career, I imagine was hot. Then he had a lull, and then he just all the really big stuff started happening. You know, like
that started happening when he got out of here.
Yeah.
Started happening when he got, because he's got such a memorable face. I mean, you know, I was thinking Jimmy Cagney in Ragtime before he even brought up Charles Sterling, and of course,
yeah, Charles Sterling. Yeah,
that's not a bad threesome.
No, and again, just I'm thrilled that he came on, and as an old firefighter, and we will send him a copy of Combustible, and we recommend anybody else.
Wait a second. We will.
Well, you'll take care of that, Frank,
Thank
because
you.
you know I can't produce
wow.
a one-car wake. You know that. Production's not my strong suit, Frank.
Yeah. Well, that does it for sure. We'll have a good week and see you next week.
All right. Thanks again. Thanks, Derek. Thanks very much. Good seeing you all. Thanks very much for looking in, and tune in next week. Please.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate it.
Yes, and ma'am.
And man, sorry, man.
Next week's guest, choreographer to the stars, from Prince to Usher to Zendaya to Michelle Obama, Rosero McCoy.
We'll see you next week.